At the present time, Steve Yoki is definitely my favorite supernatural writer. Not only does he write great lines, creates these interesting character moments, and gets everyone where they need to be in terms of their arc for the season in a solid, smart, understandable way, but he obviously has his own voice and his own ideas. I'm very glad that he's part of the show right now because I don't love any of the other writers on staff. Davey Perez is really hit or miss. Robert Burns still can't get out of Joss Whedon's shadow. Buck Lemming consistently sucks, and Andrew Dabb, I think, is like Sarah Gamble, where he's a better writer than showrunner. Meredith Glenn is my second favorite writer, but she's written mediocre episodes as well as good ones. Anyway, moving on to this actual episode, I love that the show contrived a reason for Ruth Connell to dance because she's a dancer by trade. The moment didn't feel particularly contrived either because Rowena has a really theatric quality to her, so of course she would dance before setting off a spell. And before then, she throws shade at the boys for never going to parties, jokes about the subpar art around her, and playfully flirts with Cass. I love Rowena. She is an absolute joy and gives the show a reason to still exist. I've been talking about Ketch and that he really didn't have an inciting moment where his redemption arc started, and he still doesn't have a clear reason as to why he's now on the Winchester's side as an example of, if not bad, but weak writing. Rowena is spared that, thank God. She's gained self-awareness and perspective after Sam gave the page from the spellbook to her, and she was deeply affected by Crowley's death. She's realized that her continual quest for power has brought her nothing but sorrow. She's admitted to herself she was a terrible mother, and maybe Crowley would have turned out differently if she were any kind of mother at all to him. I also really appreciate whenever a character calls the Winchesters out on their hypocrisy, and whenever any of them, including Cass, get huffy to others about breaking the universe when they've done that a bunch of times. Poor Rowena has joined the Needs Therapy Club, and Billy, of all people, gave some to her, and it's kind of moving, actually. Side note, Billy really is a worthy successor to Death. I want to highlight that again, because to me, one of the reasons that made him so cool was that he had this Cthulhu-like gravitas of being just so above and beyond everything that anyone else can conceive of, and to him, everything was just kind of a simply mildly interesting diversion. And Billy's actress, Lisa Barry, can also pull that sort of distance and indifference, but still interest in what's going on around her off, like Death's actor did. I also really loved the ending of this episode with Sam, Dean, and Rowena. Sam and Dean think that Rowena can be redeemed because they need to believe that about themselves. It reminded me of moments with Angel and Faith. I think the show really could go somewhere with this connection between Sam and Rowena, and him being the one who is destined to kill her, but he could also be the one who could save her, inspire her to be the best version of herself. This episode was almost great, but it just makes me wish, yet again, that Supernatural overall was a better show, because the premise of this episode simply does not fit within the mythology. Supernatural has always rejected the idea that there is any sort of rule book or great plan that a higher power is putting into place, or if there's anyone like that doing that, then their plan can be thwarted. The supernatural universe should be fluid enough to accommodate Rowena killing those people. We saw in a previous episode that there is no one set time or way for anyone to die. I mean, Dean had a bunch because he was Dean, but you assume that those people that Rowena was killing had a few different ways that they could have died too. This is how the lack of consistency in Supernatural's world building hurts the show in a deep and fundamental way. Another thing that bothered me, but nowhere near as much about this episode, was the Reaper Jessica. She was just a little too, quippy and pithy for me, and she really did not have that much chemistry with either Jared or Jensen. She just did not gel for me with them, I don't think. Not a terrible character, has potential, but I'm lukewarm on her as of yet. Moving on to the Angels, I have to ask, again, where is Michael in all of this? Our Michael. Is poor Adam ever going to be released from him? Is he going to like be in that cage forever? Poor Adam. There's a theory I've seen floating around that Dean is going to say yes to Michael, and I don't doubt that's possible and wouldn't be surprised if that happened, but I hope it's our Michael because Adam still needs to be dealt with. How many seasons? Like 8 seasons later. Jesus Christ. Where was Lucifer in this episode? Was he supposed to be in heaven this whole time? He wasn't even mentioned, where the angels gave a hand wavy explanation as to where he was, like he's out on Earth trying to get Jack back. In recent news, Naomi isn't dead. I'm much less bothered about her coming back than Gabriel because her reappearance doesn't really require any mental gymnastics on my part. There's no asking why God couldn't find her, like with Gabriel, because she's just been recuperating this whole time. That's believable for me. In fact, I'm actually quite pleased to see her again, and I hope that her reappearance is not wasted and her coming back to the show isn't just pointless fan service. In contrast to Rowena, she's not at all sorry for the horrible thing she did, namely to Cass. Will she experience any development beyond this point? We'll have to wait and see on that one. The lack of angels, I'm guessing, is going to be solved by raising them from the empty. That's my guess. What's yours? I can imagine Balthazar coming back and making a joke about Cass and Dean still not being together, but that's just my wishful thinking. Cass is still pissed about being made to kill Dean over and over, which of course made me happy, and the joke about ball handler was just awesome. I'm not sure if Steve Yoki is fucking with Testial shippers or not, or if that had anything to do with us, but that was a great moment. So was Dean being embarrassed about admitting that he likes Ashton Kutcher. That's especially funny because he said, dude, rule 1, no Kutcher references in season 6. Yet another example of Dean pretending he doesn't like something that he, in fact, actually does. Did you like this episode too, audience? Sayonara and Auf Wiedersehen.